I'm joined live from Monmouth in the United Kingdom by Frank Brehany, who's a travel expert. Frank, thank you so much for joining me today here on aNews. Now, in fact, you're in Monmouth, which is in Wales, just across the border from Europe. What are the differences between the two countries, which are both part of the United Kingdom?
Each of the four countries, if you like, of the United Kingdom have their own legislatures, their own independent parliaments, and of course they have powers to be able to make local laws to suit local conditions. But ultimately, the direction comes from central government based down in Westminster, and that is where you are potentially seeing some of the issues of confusion, if you like, between the different implementation of the different tiers. So that is the principal issue that's affecting most people and their travel here in the United Kingdom.
So we know that, for example, London is under, and the southeast of England is under a Tier 4 lockdown. Where you are is much more rural. Are you having the same sort of impositions over into Wales?
Yeah, I mean, I literally live about 500 metres from the English border, but here where I live, we're under a Tier 4 lockdown. And that means we can't leave the area. We can go shopping down to the food shops, but most shops are closed. You know, you can get medical help if you need it. You can go to the dentist and things like that. But in terms of movements, we just can't go anywhere. And there are exceptions. Say, for example, if you're within a childcare bubble, or indeed if you're helping somebody who's shielding from the effects of this virus if they have serious illness, for example.
Right, so obviously movement within the United Kingdom, taking all four countries, is already severely restricted. And now overseas travel has also been hit, as we've just been hearing a little earlier, with not only France restricting the movement of goods between the two countries as well as people, and several other countries around the world have also put a ban on travel from the UK. What actually is the situation?
Well, it started off very quickly yesterday. It started with the Netherlands and quickly followed by Italy and Germany. And within the space of 24 hours, I think there's a total of 50 countries now that say that they will not accept travel from the United Kingdom. And so this has had a profound effect upon the travel industry here in the UK, whether it's airlines or package holiday companies. For example, those companies that send holidaymakers out to Turkey, for example. So there is no chance that UK holidaymakers or business people can leave the UK to go into Europe or indeed further beyond. And it is quite difficult as well within the areas, because even if you can get away, if, for example, you live in a Tier 4 area, you're not allowed to leave those areas to go to an airport that may be open, for example, to take your flight. So that introduces a whole range of difficult issues for those companies, but not least of which for consumers who will be undoubtedly looking for their refunds.
Of course. And how has the travel industry coped with it this year? I know that in the UK there's the ABTA, which is an association which protects travellers, but have people lost out?
I think the biggest problem, if I just deal with consumers first of all, biggest problem for consumers is actually to get their money back according to the consumer rights that currently exist here in the UK. And normally you're supposed by law to get your money back on a package holiday, for example, within 14 days. For a flight only, it's 7 days. But I'm afraid that is not what is happening. But I think most people are fairly stoic. They understand that there are difficulties for companies. But many people are waiting, you know, for maybe 5, 6, maybe even longer months to receive their refund. Insofar as the travel industry is concerned, it has been a catastrophe. There's no question about that. I think I said earlier that the start of December saw very happy news about the introduction of a vaccine. And the travel industry moved very swiftly to try and increase the capacity here over the Christmas period. It certainly wasn't going to be full capacity, but on average, say about 20% of their normal schedule. And it was a message, if you like, that they were back in business, back in town, and that normality was beginning to return. And then, as we've seen so often through this coronavirus crisis, something will happen and it completely changes the picture, and that is what has happened. Effectively, there is absolutely no movement as far as travel is concerned, sadly.
And of course, how long that continues is obviously unclear at the moment. And there are many sides to every situation. Heathrow Airport just announced it's going to build a new runway, but at the same time, Brexit is going to come to a final conclusion, we expect, at the end of the year. How is this going to, how do we anticipate this is going to affect the travel industry into 2021?
There are so many factors involved in this, and this is a question I get often asked across the media. And the way that I've approached this is to look at what the aviation industry, what the airline industry have been doing since March. And effectively what they've done is that they have obviously mothballed their fleets. They've taken entire aircraft types out of their fleets, and they've adjusted their schedules for the future quite substantially. And by their own predictions, they're suggesting that the return to 2019 traffic, or indeed passenger levels, will not occur until 2023, 2024. There are some who go a little bit further than that, but if we look at 23, 24 as being the optimum moment when air traffic returns to normal, and by inference, the return to normality as far as package holidays are concerned, and indeed, I would suggest it cuts right away across the whole commerce area. But that, unfortunately, is the way that the aviation industry have predicted it, and I think we should take our lead from that information.
Well, of course, this year the whole world has taken a tremendous slap, and it's going to take time for the bruises to wear off, so to speak. Now, coming right back to the moment, and again from a consumer perspective, we were just listening to a news package slightly earlier about the fears of perishable goods not being able to be brought into the UK. And I've seen on social media people fear-mongering about, or concerned about, depending on how you look at it, about rationing in the UK, both because of the coronavirus and because of the Brexit situation coming sharp on its heels. Is rationing or shortages something that are likely to be expected in the coming months?
That's a very difficult question to answer, but I think the way to I think the way to look at this is simply that the UK is currently caught in the middle of a perfect storm. I think there's no other way of putting it. It is true to say that some perishables are not available on the shelves of supermarkets. But then if supermarkets, as they have been saying, don't panic buy, and indeed government ministers have been saying don't panic buy, guess what? Consumers are going to panic buy. Yes. And of course, that is what's leading more towards empty shelves. The issue, however, of the future in relation to food supplies is indeed a very serious question. And indeed, only this morning, I've noticed that there is a flock of previous Freedom of Information Act requests here in the UK from different councils around the UK who actually talk about the possibility that we may have to rethink about how we operate our diets. And I'm trying to find the most diplomatic way of putting it without using the word rationing. But it all tends to suggest that we're going to have to be a little bit more careful about our choices and perhaps manage our own expectations until such time as perhaps, if indeed a trade deal with the European Union actually takes place.
Well, and that obviously is something that everybody's wanting to know where they stand, and the confusion because of COVID is just multiplying that. So just one final thought or question. This year has changed everybody's lives. 2020 has been different for everyone. We've learnt so much, maybe about what's valuable, and about what things we took for granted we're now missing. Now, since the 1980s, people have been jumping on the planes and going on package holidays and travelling abroad. Do you think the tourism industry in the UK might take a new look at itself and change how it operates in the future?
I think that is a fair question, fair analysis. I think what people have realised is that on their doorstep there are many treasures, if you like, that they can visit, experience, explore. Whereas perhaps, say, 2019 and previously, the trend for UK holidaymakers was that if you could afford it, of course, they may take maybe anything between 2 and 3 holidays a year. And there may be short breaks combined with a longer break or whatever. But I think what will happen in the future is that it has caused people to think about a life close to home, about their expectations, about what they can discover here. And I think what we're going to see is a bit of a mix and match. There will be more staycation, as we call it here, but they'll also combine it with getting away. And perhaps the getting away will look more towards the luxury market. Again, if you can afford it, there will always be the cheaper end of the market that will be available. But I think, generally speaking, I think people will balance their experiences. There's been quite an example here in the UK, for example, where people have started to buy tents and camping equipment, and the joys of that, particularly in our climate, has certainly not been lost on many holidaymakers here.
Excellent. Well, I'm grateful that I'm in Turkey with so many beautiful places to see here, but I'm looking forward one day to returning perhaps to Monmouthshire and finding out whether Tintern Abbey has finally been finished. Thank you.
Long way off it.
Frank Brehany, thank you so much for joining me today here on aNews. It's been
welcome.
very interesting. Thank you.